As a dad, my algorithm is chock full of memes, pictures, and other content about my mental health. And I, for one, am glad to see it. We're finally breaking through the stereotypes that have men holding feelings in, not getting the self-care they need, and overall, creating a generation of boys modeling the maladaptive practices of the men in their lives. Whew. That felt good. Now it's time to get your feelings out right here, now, on 3-Dimensional Dads.
I'm Jay.
I'm Derrick.
And I'm Ian.
And we're the 3-Dimensional Dads. And I think I found the perfect shirt for this episode.
Oh. Nice. There we go.
So my teaching partner and friend Justin got that for me 1 year after our genocide studies exhibition because I was so happy. Just tears were flowing. So that's a shout out to him for getting the best t-shirt for this episode. I think we should start out with a disclaimer to protect ourselves. We are not therapists. We are not mental health professionals.
Far from it.
Yeah, far from it. But not too far from it. I did go to college for this stuff. But anyway,
that was a male year. That's happened.
Right. But in a roundabout kind of way, we're dads and we talk about our feelings to each other. We talk about feelings on this podcast. We talk about feelings and it creates a supportive community. So we're not necessarily mental health professionals, but we're kind of adjacent, I think, to what a mental health professional's job is to help get your feelings out. So that's kind of what I wanted to start off with. And also mention that mental health is important, not just for men in general, but for everybody in general. The thing is that men have had this unhealthy behavior, right? That we're not going to therapy, that we're not going to show our feelings, and it's been forever, right? We're going to put some links in the stuff down below with some stuff about male mental health that, if you want to read, I found it very interesting. But I want to start with this. 29% of men, just 29% of men attend therapy, and only 17% of fathers go to therapy, as opposed to 41% of women. So why is that? I think that's what we're talking about today, right? Why dads need therapy and why it's important. So I don't know. Let's start with our personal experiences with therapy. I see both a personal therapist and a marriage therapist. My wife has an individual therapist as well. Mostly this is because we have difficulty communicating. We're very different people in our relationship style, our love language, if you will. And we did have some really hard times, especially right before and during the pandemic. I think that's a lot of people, right? But we're working on it. We're building trust back. We're building understanding and empathy. And that is therapy. That is what therapy does. And it helps to have that individual therapy to help rehearse for the big conversations, not only during marriage therapy, but when we're doing it kind of ad hoc to each other. Those tough conversations, I think it's really good to have a therapist help you. And that's my personal experience with therapy. Derrick, if you will.
I've been in and out of therapy, I think probably since like around 2014, I think. And really it kind of stemmed from a lot of anxiety that I didn't realize that really, had, generationally, but also to like inflicted, I think, a lot from just work situations, really, work stress, and other underlying personal issues too. But I guess one thing regarding my experience with therapy, I've been in individual therapy. I've been in couples therapy. I have been also back again in individual therapy. I think something that is really critical is that, that for the guys that, are trying to overcome that and do something, about helping themselves, right? And being an advocate for yourself, I think really is that it can be hard to find, a therapist you connect with. And it's let alone it's hard to go to therapy, right? I think as a man, but it is also difficult to find, I think, like the right therapist that has the correct style for you. Because there's so many different types of, psychology, and there's so many different types of therapy treatments that therapists subscribe to. So really, I was very fortunate. People like say, well, how do you do it? I mean, first, just went through your work website, right? And you try to just, all right, see who's around me, see who has availability. Then it almost like, I think connecting with people, our age that also go to therapy, I think is something that's really helped. And honestly, you kind of get a sense of like, oh, I love my therapist, and then maybe you should try that person, because there's like no Yelp for it, right?
No.
It's really hard to do, and that's let alone say taking the step and actually like going to therapy, right? But I really feel that once you find that person, um, I think it's essential for your mental health and well-being. And I'm not even talking from like the relationship standpoint. I'm just talking from I guess more of a anxiousness sort of mental kind of issues going on that I had. So yeah, it's that's my experience with therapy, and I gotta admit, like, I might have to call him this coming soon, because when I was going through our script, it was like, it's all sunshine and rainbows for Ian.
Sun rays and good days, if your shirt is telling the truth.
Hey, cool shirt. Yeah.
No, you're right. I think just to say that there's starting to become Yelps for therapists, right? They have like Psychology Today has references and resources, but how do we know about that? That's the thing. Like Yelp is very popular. There's an app for it. We don't know this stuff, and it's starting to change, but it's not really advertised towards men as much, anecdotally, I think, anyway. So Ian,
And
what about,
that,
go ahead, Derrick.
a lot of that happens to be because it's a generationality thing too, right? I mean,
Ooh.
our fathers probably didn't go see therapists, right?
Nope.
You alluded to this like in the beginning, in the introduction, Jay, and it was like, there's only 29 percent of men that go to therapy, right? And you talk about the stigma behind it, and like, what is that? It's like, well, someone that would do that would be a wuss, right? Or just it isn't, a man sucks up his feelings, and he stuffs them down into his pocket, right? And he doesn't let anybody know that he has a problem. He doesn't want to be a burden to somebody, right? So I really feel like it's hard to even kind of overcome that sort of stereotype and perspective too, in wanting to get help for yourself, really. And I make a comment about this, kind of, as we were further talking and thinking about this, is like, if you went to the hospital because you had a broken leg, you'd rush to the emergency room, right? If something is, you're not feeling well, you feel like, kind of hopeless, or, if you feel like you have problems and you don't have any place to turn, well, then why wouldn't you try for a matter of saying, I don't want to say fix it, but, at least do something about it. Right.
Right.
It's true. Yeah. And we'll be hitting that, stigma about the generational thing with a big grenade later, opening that can of worms. But what about Ian, your particular experiences with therapy?
Sure. So I think on our podcast, you can hear even just the way that the three of us talk about feelings. I feel like that you guys have worked a lot with people processing emotions and feelings and communication styles. And you can hear, if you're a listener of our podcast, the therapy that you've had inform how we do a lot of these episodes.
Yeah.
Yes,
and so that helps.
Parenting,
That both of you are so good at talk about feelings and things. And he got me thinking about those processing your feelings and your thoughts, and that I've, in finding the right kind of therapist and the right person to talk to, and that, someone that I met that was really easy to talk to with my wife. And that was when I first met her, she just understood me on a level that then I just poured everything out, my innermost thoughts and feelings. And like, I hadn't had someone I'd shared like that level of inner thoughts and feelings with. And
not
that
on the
was
first
amazing.
date, right? Not on the first date.
It was probably too close to the first date. I was like, I was like poured all. I found that person. I was just like, oh my God, all these feelings. Well, when you're 20, when you're young, I have all these. I'm not that really thinking that much like internally yet.
Yes.
And so telling someone else and informing someone of all these things in your life and all these stories that to you were just like, that just happened. And they're like, go into more detail. What happened there? It's like an adult's perspective on like a childhood story. It's like when I was a kid and I was growing up, this is just, it's like if you haven't processed any of that stuff.
Yes.
So then to have someone hear everything you have to say and to see it differently and ask, probing questions. And so, that was something that I think helped me process a lot of who I am, and just deciding who I am is meeting like a certain person at the right time.
Yeah. That's a great quote, Ian, by the way. That really is because that is what it feels like. That's almost like what the purpose of it is.
Right.
And having it be your spouse is, not a professional therapist, right? Your spouse is a teacher, just like I am, but having it be a person close to you that understands you, right? That's like, therapy on demand, right?
I find that with certain friends and just people, and finding someone that understood what I meant. Because sometimes people hear what you say and they don't get what you're trying to say, and suddenly there's someone that just really understood where I'm coming from and how I view things, and like, well, of course, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So that, and I'm currently with that same person. We're doing a rewatch of The Sopranos, and I thought that in the public zeitgeist is one of the first moments about stigma. Or, Tony Soprano is seeing a therapist, and all of his amplified dramatic problems being a mobster, and how his wife handles the stigma, and how as like the big boss, he doesn't want to be seen. He would be seen as weak. Or he's worried he would get killed if people found out he had a therapist. Yeah. And so I thought, when we were writing this episode of like, oh, wow, so much of that stigma that we're talking about, that's coming out and was really explored in that series. That like, here is a guy that like he needs to talk about his feelings. He's having anxiety. He's having panic attacks. And so that's why he decides to finally go see a therapist and start working through. He's dealing with such crazy stuff all the time. But the one person he really trusts is his therapist. The one person, he's not honest with anyone else in his life. He's telling a story to everyone else.
Yeah.
But the one person, he finally finds this woman that he can really be truly honest about and tell these unfiltered feelings and talk about his childhood, where it's like he opens up in a way that would be seen as compromised or where he has to always be that tough guy with that grit in his outside life.
So where does that stigma come from, though, Derrick? Like, right? Like, where, like, we have this stigma, like, why? It seems silly.
Yeah. And I think, this kind of goes back to a little bit like what I was alluding to before. I think it's something that they talk about this with, I don't want to call it reversing or, a poisonous kind of behavior, like with girls too, and their stereotypes, right? I think in a lot of ways, you say that there's this objectification of women and things, right? I also feel like there's this masculinity, right? That a man fits this certain mold, right? That has been, just handed down, right? And not sort of evolved with the time, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think
you say toxic masculinity?
Toxic masculinity. Yeah. I yes. But, and now it's even it's hyperized, I think, with an active kind of like super masculinity, like male toxic masculinity that you see like on YouTube videos and TikTok, just kind of like the extreme. They was
bro
like
thing.
Right.
Bro.
That I think now you're seeing. So I think it's really important that there is this light that's shed, right? That's whether it's adult community and maybe not someone that's, bro, that's pushing his finance, lifestyle or whatever to you, right? But like your Dungeons and Dragons bros, maybe. Your Magic the Gathering friends or Citizens of Catan. To play to our audience, if you will.
Now, Ian, you talked a little bit about this idea that Tony, he has a feeling like he's going to be whacked, right? If someone finds out he's in therapy. I don't think you're too far off from like where the stigma is real, right? In our society. It's not so much that someone's going to kill us if they know we're in therapy, not physically anyway, but they're going to have some sort of, hint of weakness or something like that, which it really isn't. It's not a hint of weakness. It's actually, I would portend it's a strength, right? The stigma, but the stigma is real in some ways, and it's earned, right? And I don't think it's by a conscious choice where, like you're saying, Derrick, our dads didn't go to therapy. Gen X was, you lace up your boots and you go out there and you get stuff done, right? You don't talk about your feelings. If you're a guy, you go out and you be strong and you be stone. And our culture, I mean, I think it's gotten better, a little bit in the past, decade or so, but our culture really, especially for 40 to 50-year-old men, like that responsibility for you to be strong, it's on us. And whether we are consciously aware of it or we're not consciously aware of it, we have that. And I had that too. Like before my daughter was born, right? Feelings, crying, when my daughter was born, I became a blithering idiot all the time. My emotions just came out and came out and came out. And that's a lot of the dad's stuff too. It's a lot of my own dad's stuff that I'm working on. And I'm really, it's a lot of my therapy is working on how am I a dad compared to my dad, who was not a good dad in many ways. Right.
That's
so
huge.
It's
parenting then makes you look at your whole existence and every, yeah. That definitely comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, especially being parents, like we're not just responsible for us anymore. We're responsible for the kiddos. Right. So, how does that transfer? Ian, you had some thoughts on this. I know.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like my wife and I, for both of our kids, we talk about emotions a lot, and not every family does. But that's something with my daughters that, like, since they've had Inside Out, or they've had these things where they, when they're small, it's different. They have really large feelings and trying to handle maturity and how they should be acting. But now that my daughter's getting a little older, I feel like now there's like a developmental moment where you switch from inside and it's all about you and you're the only one who exists to, oh my gosh, there are other people. How am I being perceived? And like these feelings just get more and more complex. I have a kiddo who's about to go into middle school. And suddenly, clothing and makeup and earrings, and there's all these things, but it is an external projection, like how you want people to perceive you.
Oh yeah.
Like looking good and feeling good. And so, it's a whole different level of working through feelings and yeah. So I feel like that's something that both my wife and I think my kids confide in us in different things as well. And it feels like it's right before bedtime when you're like, okay, lights out, there's no more. And then they hit you with that question that you're like, okay, no, we should probably talk. Dad, today some boy called me. Oh, whoa, hold on. Okay.
Wait a
All
second.
right, lights back on. Okay, you got my... Yeah, they wait and like they're processing. And I think that's amazing to see too, is their little brains develop. It's like, my younger kiddo, she has these thoughts that are so much more complex suddenly. I go like, who are you? Oh my, where'd you get that question? What gave you that? And so she's processing like a whole different level. And really she observes a lot.
Yeah.
And so, explaining to her like why things in her life are the way they are. And I go, actually, you picked up on something I didn't think you would. Yeah, let's talk about it. Sure. They're seeing more and more every day.
That's my kiddo that just this weekend had, first of all, she volunteered to climb in my crawl space with a mask on to easy now, to tape a 4-inch foil vent onto the turtle's thing. It's called the turtle vent or something like that vents your bathroom out. Cause I was redoing my bathroom fan. I was like, oh man, I can't get up in there. She's like, well, Daddy, I'm small. I can get up in there. I'm like, where does this come from?
Like Grogu and Mando and Grogu, you like send her up in the
a little bit,
relationships.
Right? Not only that is we came back from the grocery store today and she put away all the groceries and organized the refrigerator. I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah, really?
That developmental thing. Now, on the therapy point, my daughter, 5 years old, she's 9.5 now. She's been going to therapy since she was at least 5, if not 4. Emotional regulation, occupational therapy, food therapy, art therapy. We're trying it all, right? Because she's wicked smart. She reads, she's just going into 4th grade. She reads at almost a 7th grade level. Her math is like in the 6th grade. And this is not just me boasting. Like this is tested. She's been tested. I'm not crazy. My mom had me tested. No, she is brilliant. She's very smart, but she has these emotional outbursts that are volcanoes, just an eruption out of nowhere. And the therapy stuff has been helping. Great. The food therapy, right? There's safe foods and not safe foods. She can use that language now because of therapy. She's become someone who at 9 years old can identify feelings and talk about them. And she picks up when my wife and I have conflict and stress going on. She picks up on that. And she's she's so cognizant of it. And I think the therapy has been helping her, not only her own feelings and stuff, but understanding other people's feelings. Like, she's very empathetic to her friends and stuff. Now, as far as parenting, coming to terms with my own, abuse by my father as a kid, he was very rough on me. I have physical stuff that still is today. Coming to terms with that and like verbalizing that stuff had happened to me and knowing that that's not the dad I want to be, that is directly a product of therapy, because all that stuff was just repressed and therapy brought it out of me. When my daughter was born, it triggered something, and therapy's helped me process that. And I think I've become a much better father because of it.
You have nothing to worry about, by the way. You are like leaps beyond lightning, years, lightning eons from, what you think of, comparing yourself to your father. That's not even possible.
It's hard though. It's hard. It is really hard, but therapy has really, really helped, because parenting, it's tough.
And raising kiddos, there's so many moments that pop up that are like, this happened when I was a kid, but it's a very different world now.
Yeah. And as a dad right now that is, re-experiencing that, just even going back and reading some of the resources, I remember just, and thinking about seeing, our son Alex now, who's, he's almost 11 months old now, but just going through these huge, developmental milestones. It's like lightning just constantly coming out of his brain all the time, trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And just the raw emotions and things he can't process yet. And in the ways it comes out, and the importance of how you even help him with that. And just even things like, how do you name something to him, or even naming the feelings. And I think right now there's this, I think this great renaissance, I'll call it, of, resources for parents out there now.
Mm-hmm.
That really,
TikTok.
yeah,
It's
just this whole, just new, like, well, the humorous stuff is part of it too, that it's like normalizing and giving a community to parents, just kind of like we are, right? That I think is like, super important. Because, there's stigmas against, raising kids too, right? People that don't want kids are like, oh, get that away from me, right? But, it's like, people have more sometimes, if you have the means to choose this and, want to go all in, right? And, I think that I think also helps just open us up for like being better parents, right? I think better parents want to like improve. And I think therapy is almost like a way of self-helping yourself in a lot of ways.
Right.
Therapy is not, an end all be all, but parenting is the most overwhelming thing that I've had to deal with in my life.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
So every little bit helps. Yeah.
I mean, planning to go on vacations, who's taking them to like practice after school, who's dropping off, who's picking up, right?
Right.
Let alone then your in-laws are coming into town, and you have your cousin that's asking for money and everything else. So like you have all this stuff and you're trying to keep it together. So yeah, you might need some help. It might be a little stressful.
Right. Well, I was just thinking all that stuff, for kids, there's so much about the external world, getting them where they need to be. Do they have the backpack? There's so much of that like taking time for their internal world.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, as a kid, I don't know if my internal world ever seemed to matter that much. Like, when we were kids, I don't know if people were looking inside or internally like that, but that's very different with us now, seeing how your kids are processing and what's going on inside.
Yeah.
Their thoughts and feelings and why, or even trying to understand this is a developmental thing.
Yeah.
They're not bad or good.
Right.
They are going through this thing where they're challenging people. Like, this is what every kid got. They're just being a kid.
Yes.
This is a thing that's supposed to happen. Not that they're behaving poorly.
Exactly.
Or like a kid that's having a tantrum. Toddlers have tantrums, and you help them deal with it. Right.
Because
that's a typical thing a kid should do.
Right. Exactly.
And so I think taking time for us, it's much harder to stop and try to understand what that kid's going through and helping them process like that. It's taking all these extra steps rather than being reactionary about it.
Last week, my therapist prescribed to me 30 minutes by myself of my own time every day, Just
Are we
30
taking that
minutes.
30
You have
minutes
to
right
do that
now? Sorry.
30 minutes every day. I have failed miserably at this task. And he's going to be so disappointed in me, but he is the best therapist, dude. Just, he is amazing, but I'm a terrible patient.
Yeah, you to be careful. Your therapists are listening to this episode.
Yes.
Thank you for all you've done for Derrick and Jay.
As a final note, not so much failure. We're just working on it.
We're just
Aren't we? Yeah.
We're just working on it.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep working on it. We're going to keep working on it. And remember, perfection is the enemy of progress. And that's what therapy is about. It's about progress. Hey, that was a lot, y'all. Thanks for sticking with us and listening to us talk about this really important topic. If you need help with your mental health, or if you're in crisis, please dial 988 to get immediate help. Also, if you're in search of a therapist, there are great resources on Psychology Today to find a good therapist in your area.
Hey, seriously, if you like that conversation and want to connect with us or find out more about Three-Dimensional Dads, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok at Three-Dimensional Dads, or email us at threedimensionaldads@gmail.com. We want to hear from you.
On the next Three-Dimensional Dads, we continue our Dads on Screen journey by going deep into the mines of Moria, across the vast plain of Rohan, right to the volcanic peaks of Mordor, as we talk about fatherhood and Lord of the Rings. All right. Yeah, there's so much more than meets the eye of Sauron when we record our one podcast to rule them all. Three-Dimensional Dads.